Today, we have the profound privilege to share a story that was sent to us from a believer who is ministering in a hidden village in Afghanistan. This is a testimony that will challenge you, inspire you, and remind you of the incredible cost and beauty of following Jesus Christ. Please take a moment to like this video, comment below with your thoughts or prayers, and subscribe to our channel. This testimony comes at great risk to those who shared it. Honor their courage by helping this message reach as many hearts as possible. Share it, talk about it, pray about it. Now, let me share with you the remarkable story of Nasir. My name is Nasir, and I need to tell you what happened to me in Herat, in the ancient streets where I grew up, where the minarets of the great mosque cast long shadows over everything we believed we knew. I was 24 years old when everything began to unravel. I lived with my father Ahmad in our family compound in the Khosan district, near the western edge of the city where the desert winds blow dust through every crack in the walls. My mother had died when I was young, and my father raised me with the iron discipline of a man who had fought in too many wars. He was a respected elder in our community, a man who settled disputes and led prayers at our neighborhood mosque. Every evening, he would sit on our worn carpet and read from the Quran, his voice carrying the authority of absolute conviction. I loved him. I still love him, though I haven't seen him in 9 months, and I don't know if I ever will again. I was studying engineering at Herat University when I met Daniel. That wasn't his real name, at least I don't think it was. Foreign students sometimes took local names to blend in, and Daniel was from somewhere else, somewhere he never quite specified. He was older than most of us, perhaps in his 30s, with careful eyes and a quiet way of speaking that made you lean in to hear him. We shared several classes, and at first I avoided him. There was something about him that unsettled me, a calmness that seemed unnatural in a place like Herat, in times like ours. But Daniel had a habit of asking questions that stuck in your mind long after the conversation ended. It started simply enough in the university courtyard during a break between lectures. A group of us were discussing politics, religion, the usual debates that filled our afternoons. Someone made a comment about Christians, dismissive and crude, and I laughed along with the others. Daniel didn't laugh. He just looked at me with those steady eyes and asked, "Have you ever actually read what Jesus taught?" "I know what I need to know," I replied, defensive. "He was a prophet, nothing more. You Christians have corrupted his message, have we?" Daniel asked, and there was no challenge in his voice, only genuine curiosity. "What do you think his message was?" I opened my mouth to answer and realized I didn't actually know. I knew what I had been told, what the imam said, what my father believed, but I had never really thought about it myself. That moment of hesitation bothered me more than I wanted to admit. Over the next weeks, Daniel and I fell into a pattern of arguments. He never pushed, never tried to convert me, which somehow made our conversations more dangerous. He would simply ask questions and offer perspectives I had never considered. "If God is merciful," he asked one day, "why does he demand perfection from imperfect beings? If he is just, how is it justice to punish people eternally for finite sins? If he loves us, why does his love depend on our performance?" "Those are foolish questions," I snapped. "God's ways are above our understanding, are they?" Daniel replied gently. "Or have we simply stopped asking because we're afraid of the answers?" I wanted to hate him. I tried to hate him, but his words stayed with me, echoing in my mind during lectures, during prayers, during the long nights when sleep wouldn't come. I began to notice things I had never questioned before, the fear that underpinned everything we did, the way we served God out of terror rather than love, the constant anxiety of never being good enough, never praying enough, never doing enough to earn salvation. One afternoon, frustrated and confused, I confronted Daniel behind the library where no one could hear us. "What is it you want from me?" I demanded. "Why do you keep doing this?" He looked at me with something like sadness. "I don't want anything from you, Nasir, but I think God does. I think he's calling you and you're too afraid to answer." "Calling me to what? To become an apostate? To betray everything I am? To become who you were meant to be?" Daniel said softly. "Jesus didn't come to start a new religion, Nasir. He came to end the distance between God and man. He came to say that God's love isn't something you earn, it's something you receive. You don't have to be good enough. You just have to be willing." Something in me broke open when he said that, or maybe it had been breaking for weeks, and this was just the moment it finally shattered. "How?" I whispered. "How do you know this?" How can you be so certain? Because I was like you once, Daniel said. Afraid, angry, desperate to prove myself worthy. And then I met Jesus. Not the prophet from the Quran, but the real Jesus, the one who died and rose again. And everything changed. I went home that night with my mind in chaos. Daniel's words chased themselves around my head. God's love isn't something you earn. You don't have to be good enough. For days, I couldn't eat, couldn't focus on my studies. My father noticed and worried. Are you ill? He asked, pressing his hand to my forehead. Should I call the doctor? I wanted to tell him everything. I wanted to lay my head on his shoulder like I did when I was small and have him make everything right. But I knew he couldn't. No one could make this right except me. In my prayers, I stopped reciting the words I had memorized. Instead, I whispered into the silence, if you are real, if you are who Daniel says you are, show me. I need to know if any of this is true. And somehow, in the deepest part of my heart where no one else could see, I felt something answer. Not a voice, not a vision, but a presence, a warmth, an invitation. I don't know how long this went on, weeks, maybe months. Time became strange. I continued going through the motions of my life, but internally, I was at war. Every time I entered the mosque, I felt like a fraud. Every time I spoke the Shahada, the words felt hollow. But when I prayed in secret, when I whispered to this God that Daniel had introduced me to, I felt alive in a way I never had before. The moment of decision came on a Friday afternoon. I was walking home from prayers when I saw Daniel being harassed by a group of men near the bazaar. Without thinking, I intervened. The men scattered, but Daniel looked at me with knowing eyes. You've decided, haven't you? He said. Yes, I heard myself say, and with that word, everything changed. I believe in Jesus Christ. I don't understand it all. I don't know how it works, but I believe. Daniel smiled, and it was like seeing the sun break through storm clouds. Then you're my brother now. Welcome home. I don't know who told them. Perhaps someone saw us together too often. Perhaps my changed behavior gave me away. I had stopped being as zealous in my prayers, had started asking uncomfortable questions in our religious discussions. Perhaps it was simply fate or providence or whatever word you want to use for the force that shapes our lives. 3 of my closest friends came to me one evening. Hamid, Rashid, and Jawad, boys I had grown up with, studied with, shared every secret with. Except this one. We need to talk to you, Hamid said, his face grim. Away from here. Away from listening ears. I should have known. I should have seen it in their faces, heard it in their voices. But I was naive, stupid with the relief of finally having made my decision. I went with them willingly out past the city limits to the old quarries where we used to play as children. Is it true? Rashid asked when we were alone, surrounded by rocks and emptiness. Did you accept Christianity? Did you leave Islam? I could have lied. I should have lied. The words of denial were right there on my tongue. But I had just found truth, real truth, and I couldn't begin my new life with a lie. Yes, I said quietly. I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe he died for my sins and rose again. I believe he is the way to God. Hamid's face twisted with rage and grief. Then you're a traitor. An apostate. You've betrayed us all. I've betrayed no one, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I've found truth. If you would just listen, we will not listen to blasphemy. Jawad shouted, and he picked up a rock. I'm not sure which of them threw the first stone. Maybe it doesn't matter. The rocks came fast, heavy, sharp. I tried to run, but they surrounded me. I tried to shield my head with my arms, but there were too many impacts, too much pain. I remember falling to my knees. I remember the taste of blood in my mouth. I remember thinking, is this how it ends? Is this what saying yes costs? Then I remember nothing. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. My head was wrapped in bandages. My ribs screamed with every breath. My left arm was in a cast. A nurse stood over me, checking monitors I didn't understand. You're awake, she said, relief evident in her voice. We didn't think you'd make it. How did I get here? I managed to croak through split lips. A man brought you, she said. He carried you in from the street covered in blood. Said he found you in the quarries. He paid for your treatment and left before we could get his name. What did he look like? She shrugged. Ordinary, middle-aged, kind eyes. I'm sorry, I didn't pay much attention. We were too busy trying to save your life. I asked everyone, nurses, doctors, other patients. No one knew who the man was. No one had seen him clearly. It was as if he had appeared just long enough to save me and then vanished like smoke. To this day, I don't know who he was. An angel? A believer who happened to be nearby? Jesus himself? I don't know. But I'm alive when I should be dead, and that's miracle enough. My father came to see me once. He stood at the foot of my bed, his face carved from stone. "They told me what you've done," he said. "They told me you've left Islam. Father, you are not my son," he said, his voice flat and final. "I have no son. When you leave this hospital, do not come back to my house. You are dead to me." Those words hurt worse than the stones had. They hurt worse than my broken bones. But I couldn't recant. Having tasted truth, how could I return to the lie? Having been loved unconditionally, how could I go back to earning love through performance? A network of believers helped me disappear. I learned there were others like me, scattered across Afghanistan like seeds in stony ground, secret followers of Jesus living in the margins. They moved me from safe house to safe house, always one step ahead of those who wanted me dead. Rahman, a former Taliban fighter who had encountered Christ in a vision, taught me how to stay hidden. Fatima, an old woman who had lost 3 sons to war, fed me and prayed over me like I was her own child. Daniel visited once to make sure I was healing, and then he too disappeared. I never saw him again. I don't know if he's alive or dead. I can only pray that he's safe wherever he is. Now I'm here in this village. I won't tell you which one. I work with children, teaching them to read and write, bringing them medicine when I can, telling them stories. And yes, when they ask, when the moment is right, I tell them about Jesus, about the God who doesn't demand perfection but offers grace, about the love that transforms everything, even at the cost of everything. I haven't seen my father since that day in the hospital. I think about him constantly. I wonder if he prays for me or if he truly believes I'm dead. I wonder if he's told people I died in an accident because in a way I did. The Nasir he knew is gone. Sometimes I grieve him. Sometimes I'm grateful he's dead. Every morning I wake up and thank God, this God who proved himself real through arguments and questions, through suffering and mysterious rescue, for bringing me here. Not because it's easy. It's not easy. I'm always afraid. Every knock on the door might be the end. Every stranger's glance might mean discovery. I carry the scars from those stones on my body. The headaches from the beating still come without warning. I may never feel safe again. I may never see my father's face except in memory. I have lost everything, but I have also found everything. In losing my life, I found life. I don't expect anyone to understand that who hasn't walked this road themselves. How can I explain that in this tiny room, hiding, afraid, separated from everyone I loved? I am more free than I ever was in my father's house. How can I make sense of the joy that coexists with the grief? I pray for my father every day. I pray that someone will come into his life as Daniel came into mine, asking uncomfortable questions, offering impossible hope. I pray for Hamid, Rashid, and Jawad, the friends who tried to kill me. I pray they'll know the truth someday, that they'll understand I didn't betray them. I found something worth dying for. I pray for the man who saved me, whoever he was. I pray for all the secret believers scattered across Afghanistan, living in fear but also in hope. And I pray for courage for whatever comes next. Because this story isn't over. It's still being written in the prayers I whisper, the risks I take, the love I try to show to people who would kill me if they knew the truth. I don't know how it ends. I only know that Daniel asked me questions I couldn't answer. And in seeking those answers, I found Jesus. And nothing, not my father's rejection, not the stones, not the fear, not even death if it comes, nothing can make me regret that journey. My name is Nasir. I am a follower of Jesus Christ. I am a son of Herat. I am a survivor and a missionary. I am broken and whole. I am lost and found. And I am telling you this story so you know that God still speaks through questions and arguments, through suffering and mysterious strangers, through everything that breaks us open enough to let light in. This is my testimony. This is my truth, and it is worth everything it cost.